Alright, today I want to talk about the worst balance changes in Street Fighter. And when I say worst, I'm actually going to use two different definitions of worst. So, I'm sure we've all experienced a bad balance patch, one that makes a character way too strong or way too weak. But when I say the worst changes, what I mean is either changes that made a move way too good. I'm also going to cover nerfs, which I feel not only made a character weaker, but also broke them on a fun level. They stopped being fun to play and became very frustrating. Just badly thought out changes. In my opinion, these changes represent both ends of the spectrum. So, moves that were buffed for no good reason and made way too good, and also moves that were nerfed, I think, excessively and damaged the character on a fundamental level. So, as always, please hit subscribe and let's get on with the video. Alright, the first one on my list is Street Fighter V Season 3 Abigail, but I'm going to go in a different direction here than what you're expecting, because you're probably expecting me to talk about the ridiculous buffs that Season 3 Abigail got that made him one of the most obnoxious characters in Street Fighter history. But actually, I'm going to talk about a nerf that Abigail got that was hidden among all of the buffs. He got one nerf, which I feel was a terrible nerf that actually hurt him way more in the long run. So this is the Season 3 Arcade Edition changes that Abigail got right here. This section of the page on Super Combo. And it's a enormous list of buffs. This is a lot of the stuff that made him extremely strong in this version of the game. But the one that I want to focus on is a nerf which ended up killing him in the long run. And it's this one right here. So here's the thing. If you guys don't know, jab anti-airs were broken in Street Fighter V, right? A lot of characters could just do stand jab as a last minute anti-air and it would work every single time. And it was very annoying to deal with. It gave almost every character a last second anti-air, so they didn't have to play neutral. They could always anti-air at the last second with a jab. And so Capcom made the sensible decision to kill jab anti-airs across the board. But there is one jab anti-air which I think should not have been nerfed, and that's this one. So the reason that I mention this is because this was Abigail's only reliable anti-air from like high angles. He has a few other anti-airs. He can do crouch fierce, he can do forward heavy punch, he has V-skill 1. He's got a few other moves that could anti-air, but the problem was, once all of these buffs that he got in Season 3 were toned down in the following updates, like Abigail was consistently nerfed after this patch, they didn't go back and look at his stand jab. And that meant that Abigail, as a result of this change, ended up like this. Let me show you a clip of my own stream from a couple of years ago. This is the Broski 1.0 stream. Oh wait, it's Abigail. What am I doing? I should just be spamming jump fierce. The unstoppable jump fierce strategy. First lesson of Street Fighter, never overcomplicate matchups. Bro thinks he's slick. So yeah, any jump normal that hit at that high angle where Abigail's stand jab used to cover, Abigail now had no answers for. So you can see, my opponent actually does try and find an answer for Oro's jump heavy punch here, right? So he tries to anti-air with crouch fierce, which fails because it's too horizontal. Then he tries to anti-air with stand jab, but it fails because they nerfed the crap out of his jab anti-air, so it stopped functioning. Then he tries to use the V-skill 1, but because the angle is too steep, the counter whiffs and goes behind. Then he tries to use forward fierce, it whiffs and he gets hit, and then he gets stunned. So I think this is a good example of the point that I'm trying to make, which is that this is a poorly thought out change, the nerf to Abigail's stand jab, because while it was important that stand jab anti-airs were nerfed, there were a couple of characters who genuinely did need it to be able to function. And this change made Abigail really unfun to play, because a lot of characters in this game could just jump at you for free. And that is never a fun thing in fighting games. So I think this is number 5 on my list of poorly thought out balance changes. Let's move on. Alright, let's take a trip back to Ultra Street Fighter 4. Just to give you guys some background, if you weren't around back then in the Stone Age, Yun was one of the new characters added in Arcade Edition. And just in case you guys don't know, Yun was wildly overpowered when he was first added to the game. He was completely broken, and Capcom had to ship a follow-up update, which in my opinion was the best version of Street Fighter 4, but we'll save that discussion for another day. They updated the game to AE 2012. And the AE 2012 update did nerf Yun a little bit. He went from being completely broken to just really, really good. So I need to emphasize this. Even after they nerfed Yun, he was still one of the best characters in the game. This is a tier list that Justin Wong made at that time of AE 2012, and he has post-nerf Yun as an S- tier character. So not the best in the game, but one of the best in the game. He's still really, really good. The thing about Yun was like very good pressure and rushdown, as Justin says here. One of the best dive kicks in the game, incredible mobility. He was a nightmare to deal with. His pressure was amazing. Very strong character, even after the nerfs. However, there was one more update coming for Street Fighter 4, which was Ultra Street Fighter 4, for better or for worse. And Ultra Street Fighter 4 also had balance changes, and one of the balance changes on that list was to Yun. And I have to use the video because it's so insane. We are going to be talking about Yun's EX Lunge Punch in Ultra.
Yun players remarked that there were times that it just felt too difficult to get in on the opponent. Additionally, the dive kick, which is his main tool to close in on the opponent, was easily focus attack. To help give him another option to close in on the opponent, Yun's EX Lunge Punch has been adjusted so that it is now slightly more advantageous on block.
Okay, so this has kind of become a meme over the years. Yun players had trouble getting in. So first of all, this is an insane statement. I don't know what the script was they gave him. Yun had some of the best mobility in the entire game and had almost no trouble getting in. He had an amazing dive kick which he could perform from a neutral jump. But the other thing is not just the way that this is described, but also the actual change. So let me just break this down for you if you guys don't know. So this is Yun's EX Lunge Punch. This was already, pre-buff, a really good move because this thing was a combo starter, so you could juggle afterwards. It was safe on block, and on top of that, this thing had armor break properties, which meant that you couldn't focus attack it, and also, it drags you an insane distance. Like, look where this move starts. He performs the move back here, and you block it. And now you're in the corner. Like, the camera can't even keep up with how much screen carry this thing does. The only thing this move had as a downside was that it was not Yun's turn afterwards. And for whatever reason, Capcom decided this move, on top of being a instant corner, armor-breaking special that was extremely fast and gives juggles on hit, they made this thing plus on block, which is one of the most insane balance changes in the history of Street Fighter. Like, there has never been more of a does-everything move than the brief period that this thing was plus. Thankfully, because this was so hilariously overpowered, there was a couple of small updates to Ultra Street Fighter 4 after this. It was reverted, thank God. It's no longer plus on block. Yun is still one of the best characters in the game. But yeah, this is such a bizarre change. I have no idea how this got through testing. Anyway, let's now move to another example of a move that already did a lot, becoming completely insane and giving pressure in a situation where it's not supposed to. Let's talk about Street Fighter V Season 2 Laura. So honestly, I don't even know if this one was like an intentional decision from Capcom or just a poorly tested change. But in the Street Fighter V Season 2 update, Laura got a single frame changed on one of her moves, and it completely broke her. So this is one of those ones that's not obvious just looking at the numbers. Right here. It looks pretty innocent. Light Bolt Charge had its active frames increased from 3 to 4. Now, if you don't know, Bolt Charge is her elbow tackle. It usually is a combo tool. The light version was also safe. It was just kind of like a horizontal tackle. Safe on block, pretty good move. You could buffer it off specials. But the thing was, by adding a single active frame to this special, Laura, being a kind of semi-grappler, semi-brawler, had a command grab. And her command grab was plus 14 on quick rise. And in Street Fighter 5, you generally want to quick rise or back rise everything. You don't usually want to let yourself stay on the floor. So it was plus 14 advantage on knockdown. And it just so happened that by giving her light shoulder a single extra active frame, what that meant is that after landing her command grab, she could instantly do light shoulder, and it would hit on the final active frame as a meaty and become plus 1 on block. And the reason that's such an insane thing is because Laura was never designed to have Oki off her command grab. She has never had it before or since. She's not like a Mika or a Zangief. She is not explicitly designed to have good Oki off her command grab to compensate for the fact that she has really good movement and really good neutral. She's like a high-speed character. She's not a slow grappler. So yeah, you'd get the command grab, and then you would do instant light elbow, and this would hit on the last active frame, and it would either be plus on block or plus 5 on hit, which was enough to link into mediums in this game. 5-frame mediums are very common. A character that went from having very poor Oki off command grab suddenly had absolutely S+ tier Oki after their command grab. It was terrifying, and it was extremely unhealthy for the game. So it was, I think it was 2 or 3 months later when Capcom said, you know what, we can't let this rock for an entire CPT season. This is going to be a disaster. And they just completely undid this change. They removed the ability to meaty shoulder, unless you did like a manually timed meaty here. So I think everyone realized very quickly that giving the character who has incredible mobility, a really good slow fireball, an overhead that she can combo off, and a command grab, the best possible Oki off command grab, probably not a very good idea. So like I said, they killed this very quickly, but how it got through testing, I will never know. Let's move on. Number 2 on my list is another Ultra Street Fighter 4 moment. I guess moment is the best way of saying it. It's going to come from the same video as my previous one. So people often joke about the Yun had trouble getting in line. There's one other one which was kind of funny, and it's funny for the opposite reason, because it's just so sad. We're going to talk about Ultra Street Fighter 4 DJ real quick.
Considered one of the weaker characters in the Street Fighter 4 series, this rhythmic warrior has been struggling to show he's on par with the rest of the cast. Has DJ finally found his groove in Ultra Street Fighter 4? Let's look at some of his changes and see if that's the case. Okay,
so just to be clear, Capcom via Combo Fiend are explicitly saying that they're aware that DJ was bad, right? You don't see this very often. It's not very often that they'll be like, yeah, this character was really weak. So if you guys don't know, throughout almost every version of Street Fighter 4, DJ was bad. He was varying degrees of bad. He was never like bottom 1, but he was consistently lowish tier. He was never really very impressive. Other characters did what he could do better, and it shows. Even Capcom are like, maybe this version he might not suck, you know, even in their own balance patch video. And then they go on to make a change that is one of the most baffling changes in a balance patch.
DJ's options for pressuring the opponent with special moves was pretty much limited to his air slasher, as all his other options left him vulnerable to punish. To help with that, the recovery on his light rolling Sobat has been reduced slightly, making the attack that much better. As this attack breaks armor and is hard to punish now, it has been balanced out through the loss of its low attack and vulnerability.
Now, if you didn't play this game, you might not really understand what the thing is here, right? I'll try and give you guys some context, but DJ basically only had one good move. Most of his kit was very subpar and very awkward to use. He had one really good move, and that was Light Sobat. And the reason Light Sobat was really good was because it was a forward advancing attack with a good hitbox, and crucially, the property it had that made this a really good move was that it was lower body invulnerable. So it would go straight over things like crouch medium kicks and sweeps. This was the one move that he had which was actually objectively a good move.
To punish.
And Capcom started out by listing this like it's a buff. They're like really happy to announce that it's now safe on block. It was already safe-ish on block. I think it was -5 originally, before it got buff slash nerfed. I think this move was -5, and they made it completely safe. But to be honest, -5 is still relatively safe in this game because there's no input buffer, and this did a lot of pushback, so it was borderline safe anyway. Like, most characters couldn't punish Light Sobat to begin with. But removing the invulnerability to low attacks as like a compensatory nerf was so fucking insane. This is a classic example of trying to do a compensation nerf that accidentally just ended up completely killing the move. It was so poorly thought out. What Capcom thought they were doing was making the move way better and then slightly toning it down to compensate. What they'd actually done is killed the only good move in DJ's entire kit, pretty much. So DJ continued to be bad as a result of this and other changes. And the final example of terrible balance changes in Street Fighter I want to cover is Street Fighter V Season 2 Balrog Turnaround Punch. You may have seen this one coming. So, Street Fighter V Season 2 Balrog got a ton of buffs to various things. He was already actually a decent character before this. He kind of won the lottery. But things got really crazy when it came to his turnaround punch. So his turnaround punch is the move where you hold down a button. The longer you hold down the button for, the better the move gets. And at max charge, it does like 50% of your health. They gave all levels of turnaround punch throw invincibility from the very first frame all the way up till frame 18. So all versions, even if you only charge it for a couple of seconds, became anti-throw. They also added upper body and projectile invincibility to levels 1 to 3 tap. They also made it so that level 4 to 6 tap, full body strike invincibility, level 7 to 10 tap, had full invincibility on frames 1 to 18. This move turned into a thermonuclear bomb. On its own, I don't think that really justifies how strong it was, and not necessarily how strong it was, but how unhealthy it was for the game, because I'm going to maybe say something that's kind of controversial here. Final Tap wasn't that broken. It wasn't actually game-ruiningly overpowered. The reason that Final Tap and a lot of these tap changes was stupid was because of how badly they damaged the game in terms of, like, depth. So let me show you an actual match of what this looked like. We've got Javirog versus LPN, and I'm just going to fast forward to the final round. I'm going to let the whole round play out.
Could hear the audience, well, we can hear the audience just screaming out right now. Not sure who's rooting for whom.
So you may have noticed, if you are a person with eyes, that Javirog is not doing much. He's pressing a couple of pokes, he's pressing the occasional crouch medium punch, but he's not really doing anything. He's mostly just walking back, occasionally buff for a crouch medium punch. You'll notice that almost every buttons he's using is medium punch and jab. He's not using many different buttons, and there's a reason for that. He's playing extremely slow and dry.
It's the final round between these two. Oh, nice check with the crouch strong. No buffer though. Still so close in life. It's anybody's game. Even if, honestly, if Bison...
Wow, this looks like peak footsies. This is definitely going to end with fundamentals, right?
35 seconds left on the clock here. No. And both players near 50%. Yeah, and no resources for LPN. Oh, the air though. Oh, the turnaround punch for 50%! Javirog takes the final game on
GG's.
LPN.
Shake my hand. Get jump scared, idiot. So he was holding tap that entire time, as was very obvious from the fact that he wasn't using most of his buttons. He had at least 2 buttons that he wasn't using. I think he was probably holding what, like heavy punch and heavy kick based on what the buttons he was missing was. I think he probably was using heavies. But this is the outcome. This is what tap gameplay looked like in Season 2. You would have Balrog just doing nothing for 70 seconds, and then in one scramble where your opponent goes for a throw,
and no resources for
you would just let rip the bomb, go through the throw, and this move did 50% by itself. Fully invincible on startup. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, even if this was blocked, it was Giga Plus. And I think that the reason why this was stupid was two things. There's two reasons why this was super toxic for the game. Number one, it led to rounds like this, really ugly rounds, where the entire game plan was literally just that. You would hold two buttons, you would play extremely reserved and just poke a little bit every now and again, do a little bit of chip damage here and there. You would wait until the timer got down to about 45 on the timer. And then after that, it was just a question of like, when am I going to let rip the bomb? That was all it came down to. You would just play lame until you had final tap stored. And then it was just a stupid mind game of like, if my opponent attempts to pressure me, I can just release this at any time. And if it works, it's going to do 50%. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, and this is not something that I've actually seen other people talk about very much. Tap is a fundamentally badly designed move in Street Fighter V. And the reason for that is because this move's frame data, as I've mentioned a minute ago, changes completely depending on how long you charge it for, right? So it's level 1 up to level 10. And the problem with this is that the frame data is tied to an audio cue. Back in 2017, we were not blessed with sound on every setup. There was not splitters kindly provided by the TOs. There might be no headphones, no splitters. You might have to just play with no sound. And this was so goddamn stupid for Balrog because every single time this character let rip a tap, you had no idea what the frame data was because you had no audio cues. So you couldn't hear if he said 3 or 5 or final, right? You didn't know if it was your turn after blocking a tap because there was no audio cue. Anyway, just to wrap this up real quick, Final Tap was shot to death shortly after this season. So you can see, here's the Season 2 changes. This is where they buffed Tap, right here. And here is the Season 3 changes, and here is all of the nerfs to Tap. It completely lost the throw invincibility on all levels. Its frame data was significantly reduced. You didn't used to get plus frames on a level 4 Tap anymore. They also killed the damage. You'll notice that Final Tap went from 500 to 350 damage, right? This used to do 50%, as you saw in that clip. They reduced it down to 35%. Invincibility gone, frame data significantly worse. They basically killed this move. This is the best example I can think of like thoughtlessly buffing a move and then panic nerfing it, everything about it the next season. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's a better example of a poorly thought out balance change in Street Fighter history? Let me know down in the comments and I will see you all in the next video.